Hello all you beautiful people out there, what is going on? This is your friend Brady coming at you fast with some Paragon. That is right, this is my first ever Paragon video, and with this video I do want to begin a new series that I would like to be calling Beast Builds. So I actually was thinking about Beast Build by Britick, but that sounds a bit too cliche. Basically what this is in this game of Paragon, you have heroes, just like in League of Legends or in any other MOBA, you have certain champions, and you look at them, and you look at their abilities, and in this game specifically, you have cards, and you can build decks with those cards. So today we're going to be looking at what I think is one of the better ways to build Gideon, which is personally my favorite character at the moment, which is why I wanted to start with him. I played the hell out of him. He's literally my most played character at the moment, and I've been doing really well with him. I've been getting games, flawless games, 8-0 games, 8-1, 10-2, that's counting kills and deaths, and it's been really easy to play with him for me. I just understand how to play with him, and I will be given a more in-depth guide on how to actually play him and what I like to do and how I like to use his abilities and such along the lines. But if this does help you out, make sure to drop a like to let me know if this is helpful, and let's get into the build. So we're going to pick Gideon right now. We're going to go over to Profile, and we're going to go to Decks. And I already have a deck right here, but we're actually going to make a new deck. We're going to build one together so it's easier to see. So we're going to go over to Gideon, build a new deck, and we'll just start off with the starter deck, okay? And I'm going to go over the starter deck real quick. I'm going to do this with every character. I'm going to go over the starter deck real quick for those of you who don't have the cards yet. And then I'm going to build my own deck off of that starter deck. So what the starter deck already has, right, is it has stuff like the Wellspring Staff, which give you both energy and mana. First off, you want to build Gideon. In my opinion, the easiest way to build him and the most effective at the moment that I found is to build him for energy damage and health. Because if you notice Gideon's stats, he has an insane amount of damage when it comes to energy. In League of Legends, that term is known as AP, or ability power. Here we can use the term EP, or energy power, or energy player. These are characters that rely on energy damage, aka damage from their special abilities, for most of their damage. They don't really use their basic attack much to kill people, they use the abilities themselves. So that's what we're going to be working on. So that's why we want to make sure that when we go over to our equipment, we have stuff like the, the Staff of the Adamant, for example. That's a great one, alright? It gives you energy damage and max health, and then you're able to slot it for either max health or energy damage. So usually what I like to do is I like to start off with this one. This one is a good, definitely a good one to start off with because it gives you both energy and max. And then you can slot it depending on the situation. For example, with Gideon, I usually play middle lane, and I will explain this more in the next video about Gideon specifically. But if I'm going against somebody who deals a lot of damage, I want to be a bit tankier against them. I want to be able to hold my lane, kill the minions, farm the XP, and not die. So I'm going to slot more with health. That's why when we go over to upgrades, we want to upgrade stuff like health. And when we do energy damage, we want to use upgrades like cast and then major cast. These are going to be the main upgrades for your Staff of the Adamant. Okay, if we come over here for your Staff of the Adamant, for your Chronomancer Disc, for your Pendulum of the Lords, this is going to be your main kind of upgrade for your damage when it comes to energy, is that major cast. And you have quite a couple of them in your deck, so you can use them in a whole lot of places. So it depends on the situation. If I'm fighting against the tanky guy who doesn't do too much damage, I would go back and I would slot the major cast first, actually. I would slot about 2 of those, and then I would slot 1 in health. Okay, if you notice, each one of these upgrades, each one of these equipment cards have 3 upgrade slots. So I would use 1 of those for health and 2 for energy. The order of when you want to do that depends on what kind of situation you're in and what kind of enemies you're facing. But to keep it short, we're just going to leave it to that. 2 damage, 1 health. And try to always max out as possible when it comes to cards, because you only have room for 3, so you don't want to be using lesser health and minor cast, because that will take up all 3 spots nonetheless, the same 3 spots that could be occupied by health, which gives you more, and by major cast, which gives you way more than minor cast. And that's just an example. So that's why we're going to be looking at equipment cards that are focused on energy damage and max health. So for example, let's go back here, and we're gonna go over to equipment, and we're gonna pick stuff up like, let's see now. Let's do this together, okay? The Elder Mage Amulet. I love this one because this one's focused more on health. So if I'm going up against someone who does a lot of damage like Twin Blast, I'm going to use the Elder Mage Amulet, and I'm gonna get that first before my Staff of Adamant, for example. Then I'll get the Staff of Adamant second. Then once I have that, I like to focus on mana just a little bit, just have some mana. So maybe Solaris Reactor gives you some mana regen and some energy damage. That's pretty good, okay? You can also use the Pendulum of Lords for both mana and max health. But again, the main point of this character's build is to slot energy damage and health first. Mana is more useful in the late game when you start getting into team fights and you need to be out on the battlefield more. You can't be recalling as much as you do in the beginning. So I like to focus on mana later and stuff like that. So let's go up over here to the prime cards. Now these are your god cards, so to speak. These are your best cards. These are the cards you always want to be using because they give you unique damage bonus, 100% damage bonus, depending on what type of character you want to get. So if you're a tank, you probably want to get the one that gives you more health. For Gideon, we're going to be using the Archmagus, which is already in our deck. It is our prime Helix. And this also gives you a unique passive aura of 300 damage for structures to minions. So the structures that you own will deal more damage to minions when you're standing near it, so to speak. And other than that, it's actually really simple, guys. The card system isn't really that difficult to understand. For the starter deck right here, you have a good selection. You have the Wellspring Staff that gives you energy and mana. You have the Staff of Adamant that gives you energy and max health. You have the Chronomancer Disc that again gives you mana and energy damage and also gives you a cooldown reduction, which if you want to spam your abilities more is also really nice. And then the Pendulum Lords, which gives you mana and health. So again, it depends on whether you want to be tankier, whether you want to be stronger. If you want to be stronger, of course, you want to, excuse me, you want to slot more into the major cast right here. If you want more mana, you can go down the route of enhanced mana, which Gideon can actually do because he does have that intellect, as you see that intellect icon. That is his strong suit. And if you want more mana, you can also go for mana regen too, actually. Sometimes I like to use the Advanced Spark mana regen, and apologies, my throat is rather dry. I have not done one of these videos in a very long time. But that's about it, guys. That's about it. If you want to be tankier, you put in the health. So how would I slot them? The starter deck is actually pretty darn good for slotting Gideon. Another way that you can slot them that I have in my other deck, if we were to go back real quick, my mana AP/crit, I actually have Rift Mage's Scepter, which also gives me a crit chance, which is very useful with Gideon's ultimate, the Black Hole. If you don't know what the Black Hole is, it's pretty much an area of effect that does damage over time, over about 6 to 7 hits, and every single one of those hits has a chance of critical when you slot this card. So again, just go back, play around with it, find a build that you guys like on your own. Of course, in the beginning, you want to buy Health Potion, Mana Potion, because you are an AP, so mana is important. So don't forget about the Mana Potion. You can also buy the Harvester's Key if you like. I like buying this just in case, because a lot of people don't go over to the Harvesters unless I go over there first. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The beginning build is self-explanatory. They pretty much guide you through it in the beginning game. But in the end game, you do want to start replacing your mana potion with mana upgrades. So at the point where it's about 25, 30, 35 minutes into the game, you're about level 12, 13, 14, you don't need mana potions anymore because your mana is high enough and your regen is good enough, so you can slot other things such as health, such as cooldown maybe mana regen, because you can have up to 4 of these really powerful equipment items. So you can have the Chronomancer Disc, the Staff of Adamant, the Wellspring Staff, and the Elder Mage Amulet all at the same time. Or if you want to build a little bit with crit chance, you can do that. This game does give you the ability to be able to switch builds on the fly, because you do have enough space to put in the cards you want. So I do have enough space to put in a Soulless Reactor if I want to play with mana regen, or the Rift Mage's Scepter if I want to go with crit chance rather than more health. So this was a bit of a long video, but hopefully it was in depth. Hopefully it guys helped you out a little bit. If it did not, I apologize. Drop a comment into what is kind of confusing, and I will try my best to answer it in the comment section below. If this did help, however, like I said, please drop a comment, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. It'll let me know if I'm doing a good job, because this is kind of new for me. I usually don't play MOBAs, or rather, I don't record MOBAs. I do play MOBAs in the past, but I don't usually record MOBAs. But I do really like this one, and I want to start making videos on it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, please drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, make sure you all have a wonderful day. Sorry, it cut out. Giggity.